Hey everybody, this is Right Money, and I'm here pushing out more content, guys. Another discussion, and I want you guys to talk about this regarding atrazine. I'm gonna give you guys this little short rundown on what atrazine is. It's a chlorinated herbicide killer that is known to kill weeds. And it's the funny thing about it being chlorinated is that everybody knows that chlorine, which is an element on the periodic table, that is one of the halogens on the seventh column of the periodic table. Sorry, I was a minor in chem. I love talking about shit like this. It The reason why it's such a really good element is because that substance helps destroy and disaffect all those bad substances in products such as what we atrazine is used for in the golf fields, in hot tubs, pools, etc. But even though those are external substances in order to kill those bad things, we also hear how atrazine is something that EPA has done a very bad job of at outlawing because it can have damaging effects on other organisms. As you see that, as you can read right there on top of this YouTube short, where Joe Rogan's guest on the Joe Rogan podcast talks about how atrazine turned male frogs into female frogs. So let me just give you guys a little short view of what atrazine is right there. That's why I say chlorine. You see the carbon extended out right there with all these nitrogens and hydrogen bonds. I know to you guys, you're probably like, what the hell does that mean? The average mass is 215.685 grams per mole. That's a really strong product. Strong compound, I should say. So, yes, that is not something to be played with. And if you come on, yep, right here, herbicides, as I said, are weed killers. What they're doing is actually killing the undesired plants. But as I said, atrazine, because it's a chlorine, chlorine also is used to kill and disinfect a lot of bad substances too. So that's a ultra. And it's a class of what? Triazines, I believe. So yeah, that's an ultra killer right there. And I can see why folks are questioning, as you see right here, if herbicide is harmful to humans. And the difference between a herbicide and pesticide is that while they kill unwanted organisms, because not just weeds, also you can get pests and you can get all these other insects and other nasty little formations of bacteria, which is also why they use to kill them too. Herbicides are a specific type of pesticides, and pesticides are just broader. So it's a higher class. That's what herbicides really are. But as I showed you guys what atrazine is, and what it's used for, and the classes and differentiation between the others, now I'm going to show you this video right here. Sorry, the video is buffering. Whew. Right before that video goes, you guys see the title Tyrone Haynes. This video came out back in 2014. I'm going to just make this short because I'm not going to play the whole video. But before I say that, I learned about EPA back in the Homer Simpson movie. I said Homer Simpson movie. The Simpsons movie that came out in 07. I remember media is really funny with what they want to tell you or not. I remember how EPA, even though it's a cartoon movie, animated movie, I always thought about EPA. I'm like, huh. So there's a real life organization that they're showing in this movie. Okay, and I did some research on EPA, and I don't know too much about the organization still, but it just seems to me that there's a lot of products, especially when you do some chemistry labs and you look at how harmful these products can be. Why are these still used? And I remember my father telling me years ago that, son, like any exposure externally cannot, it's still not good. Like folks think that putting something into your body is usually the worst thing. No, it's also what you put on your body too. You know, topically can be as equally as dangerous as oral intaking. And that's the funny thing that nobody talks about because there's radiation coming from the TV. You know, that's what my dad used to tell me growing up, and I said, "Yeah, you're right because of the waves. Everything in life, when it comes to energy waves, that's how we're able to use Bluetooth and get connection from these cell phone towers. That's why you see these big towers near these plants. That's giving us this technology and electricity to run through, and providing our technology. So you're telling me that being exposed to these chlorinated products and these herbicides and everything else isn't good for us. That's why I used to use a hot tub a lot back in high school and college in the community centers, and then my uh, local gyms and my rec centers and everything when I had the memberships and everything. But now that I use LA Fitness, I don't really use the hot tubs that much because I know that they're not that clean and they just rely on overusing that substance. I don't want to be exposed to that constantly. So I usually make sure I do take a pre-wash before I get into that, and I advise anybody to do that. But let's watch what Tyrone Haynes says for a little bit. And as you see right there, I'm gonna point right here, Syngenta. That's everything, guys. Not even just America, in the world. There's a brand or a company making all these products. So there's a brand or a company that's literally known just for making a keyboard. So there's something for everybody to make money off of. So this herbicide firm, Syngenta, is going against this former scientist that's been studying about herbicides for almost 2 decades at that point. And you're probably wondering why corn crops. Well, if you're a farmer, you want to kill all these bad weeds. Just a little side note. But endocrine system, if you guys don't know what that is, here's my little notes. The endocrine system produces glands that are essential hormones. That's what it is. If you guys didn't know what that means. So, you see all these glands and the functions. The endocrine system is one of the important systems in the human body. So that's really important to understand. As I said, golf courses. Yeah, I told you.
To start with, the company's public relations team drafted a list of 4 goals. Reporter Rachel Aviv writes, quote, "The first was, quote, discredit Hayes." In a spiral-bound notebook, Syngenta's communications manager, Sherry Ford, who referred to Hayes by his initials, wrote that the company could prevent citing of TH data by revealing him as non-credible. He was a frequent topic of conversation at company meetings. Syngenta looked for ways to exploit Hayes' faults, problems, if TH involved.
You see, I see that he was somebody that worked there and actually was an honorable human being, and saw through his studies and research that, hey, things are on a debt mark. This doesn't sound right, and it's not that it's just bad on other organisms. What about our own species? This is affecting us, and it's affecting us probably the same way as it's affecting the frogs, the organisms that we're testing on. If you guys want the full video, I will link it in the description, but I just wanted to show you guys just a little brief update on not everything is what we seem to think it is. Think about consciously what we're being exposed to, what you're being exposed to as well. Okay? This is Ray Money, and I'll be back with another video. All right? But until then, just watch this and do some research on it, please. Take care. Peace.